The guidance and procedures published by the PCI Security Standards Council states that a remote assessment can be performed only after a thorough feasibility analysis. So I want to talk through what that looks like, and I'm going to use the guidance that's published by the council to talk through the 6 points that they say need to be involved in your feasibility analysis. But first, I want to say, if you're working with an assessor on your PCI assessment, or if you are working with an audit firm on some other framework, this is a very important conversation to have, not only to determine what part of your engagement could be performed remotely, but also to properly scope what's being done. I see so many audit reports that are missing important elements of scope, or just incorrectly scoped, because people did not take the time to have this very important conversation. And that is an understanding of the people, processes, technologies, locations, and physical facilities to be included in your scope. I'm surprised at how many people are not willing to have this conversation. If your audit firm is not talking to you about the people, processes, technologies that should be included, then you should look for a more thorough approach. Here at Kirkpatrick-Price, we have this conversation with every client because we want to ensure that we are looking at every element of your environment that an attacker might be looking at, or that an attacker might be able to find. And so work with someone on a thorough feasibility analysis. There are 6 things that the council has provided that should be included in your feasibility analysis to determine if you should undergo a remote assessment. The first one is confidentiality, security, and data protection requirements. What methods are going to be used in order to protect that data that is going to be provided exclusively in a remote fashion. Number 2, availability and effectiveness of remote assessment technologies. Have you looked at the technologies that the firm is going to use in order to assess you remotely? What about the agents that they might install on things? What about the screen sharing technology? We all heard the stories about the Zoom encryption that was not configured according to how they were promising that it was configured. And so these types of things should be looked at and considered to understand about the reliability and effectiveness of the technologies that will be used. Finally, the entity personnel, will they be available remotely? Will we be able to access everyone in order to get the conversations that are needed to happen in the assessment? What about operational support? Does the entity have the personnel? And this is a big struggle for people to actually engage remotely and support the engagement in this fashion. Is everyone committed to working in that way? We found that a lot of people find it easier to avoid and not attend these necessary meetings remotely. Number 5, the assessment scope and completeness. Are we missing important elements of scope simply because we're doing things remotely? What is the portion of our scope that we might be missing or falling short on simply because we're not coming on site and we're not taking part in those types of assessment activities as well? And finally, number 6, the quality and reliability of digital evidence. Will we be able to get a full picture? Will we be able to get thorough evidence remotely by missing an opportunity to corroborate in another way, such as in-person observation? So think about if you are preparing for your audit or assessment using a feasibility analysis. I think this process and this conversation is important to have regardless if you're doing remote, in-person, or some combination of both.